Today, I will be talking you through the 5A vertebrate animal form. Just as a disclaimer, if there is any way that you could complete your project using something other than a vertebrate animal, then you should do so, seeing as vertebrate animals should only be your last option. You can find which forms to fill out by reading the qualifications on pages 12 through 14 of your ISEF guidelines. As it says at the top, this form is required for all research involving vertebrate animals that is conducted in a school, home, or field research site. SRC approval is required before experimentation. The SRC, aka the Scientific Review Committee, consists of experts in the field that are knowledgeable about research, and they review every single project that advances to the state level. You might have already noticed that this form is split into two halves. The first half is what the student researcher, aka you, is going to be filling out, but we will talk about that in a minute. The other half will be completed by the SRC before your experimentation. It's important that you understand this point because if you were to go ahead and go through with your experiment, gather all of your data, and not have an approval from the SRC, then you would not be able to compete with that project. Obviously, we really want to avoid that happening, so please get approval before starting experimentation. We now know that the entire bottom half will be filled out by the SRC and that this is where they will designate the level of supervision required and sign off on your project. This way, you know that you have followed all of the guidelines necessary and you have used appropriate subject matter. At the very bottom, we see two boxes, one to be completed by the veterinarian and the other to be completed by a designated supervisor or qualified scientist when applicable. Again, you do not have to fill out the bottom half of this form. Now, let's move on to the part that you will actually be filling out. You're going to want to start by writing your student's name and the title of the project at the top of the paper. Our project is going to be about dinosaur distinction and exploration into how varying habitats affect cerebral cortex growth. From here, we are going to be getting a little bit more into detail, so please make sure that it is the student researcher that is filling this upcoming part out. Number 1 is asking us to list the common name or genus species and number of animals used. You can see in our example that we have a variety of dinosaurs, including the Triceratops and Stegosaurus, and that we have used 2 of each species. For number 2, they are wanting us to describe completely the housing and husbandry to be provided, including the cage/pen size, number of animals per cage, environment, bedding, type of food, frequency of food and water, how often animals are observed, etc. Add an additional page as necessary. Basically, this question is wanting an overview of how you've taken care of your animals while under your care. It is important to provide as many details as you are able to. In our example, we chose to keep our dinosaurs on a free-range dinosaur farm and separated them into 2 different enclosures, one with high moisture and light visibility and the other with little to no sunlight or water. They were provided with shavings to create their own spaces and fed twice daily with non-GMO protein sources such as chicken, liver, and etc. And these dinosaurs were constantly being observed through drones and 24/7 surveillance. Moving on to number 3, where it is asking us what will happen to the animals after experimentation. In our example, our animals were released into the hands of qualified paleontologists to be rehabilitated and eventually released into livable habitats. On that note, if you are using an invasive species, please communicate with the proper authorities on how to get that species to a safe location. For number 4, please attach a copy of your wildlife license or approval forms if applicable. For number 5, the Intel ISEF vertebrate animal rules require that any death, illness, or unexpected weight loss be investigated and documented by a letter from a qualified scientist, designated supervisor, or a veterinarian. So if applicable, attach this letter with the form when submitting your paperwork to the SRC prior to competition. That concludes the vertebrate animal form part 5A. Thank you for watching.